Welcome back to Groomer Tales, a podcast by Groomer's Choice. I'm your host, Natasha. In this episode, I sit down with Blake Hernandez. Blake opens up about his path from competitive gymnastics and personal trauma to finding purpose through dogs, grooming, and creative expression. He also shares behind-the-scenes stories from Pooch Perfect and Netflix's documentary, Dogs. We talk about the realities of competitive grooming, building a personal brand, navigating online trolls, and why showing up authentically, loud suits, hair flips, and all has always been a non-negotiable. Please enjoy this conversation with Blake Hernandez. Blake Hernandez, reality TV, social media star, groomer extraordinaire, best hair in the game. I mean, the accolades just go on for days, you know? But here on Groomer Tales, we like to go back, origin story type stuff. So where are you from originally? Did you always know you wanted to work with animals?
Okay, all right. So I am from Bakersfield, California. We like to call it Blakersfield now, of course.
Right.
I did not know what I wanted to do like when I was a young kid. I think I had lots of little dreams that were just like tied with my current interests. So I was like an Olympic level gymnast and competed on a national level. So during those years, I wanted to be a gymnast and a gym owner and like a gym coach and all those things. And I did that. And I actually used to perform in a circus and all sorts of stuff.
Oh.
But then I had an injury and I graduated. I was like, all right, I'm going to move out of my hometown because it was terrible. And so I moved to San Francisco, and that is where I had some life big boy stuff happen. Like I had a man that I moved for, and he started abusing me, and so I had to drop all my stuff and go find a new place to live, and that was traumatic. And then I fell into a depression and started doing drugs. And through that, I mean, I didn't do it long, but I did bad drugs with bad people for 3 months, I would say. And every time I would meet someone new in that clique, they would say something along the lines of, "Oh, you're so beautiful. You don't want to keep doing drugs. You're not going to be beautiful anymore. Your teeth are going to fall out." And I think that actually scared me, like having other drug addicts telling you, "Please stop, you're going to get
Yeah.
ugly." I genuinely think that played a big role in it. But I also got a dog, and the dog, was really young, and I became very obsessed with this dog, and I stopped doing drugs. And when she was about a year old is when I was like, I think I want to work with animals. So that is how I like first, I guess that's what led me to it. But yeah, it's a tale.
Yeah. And I gotta say, I follow you on social media and you kind of opened up about your addiction struggles. I think it's good that you're open because it's relatable or aspirational. People know that there's life on the other side of struggles and all of that.
Yeah, I think it's become more important to me in the like more recent years. Because I lost my little brother to drug addiction. And also, I think that it is so firmly behind me now that it feels a little bit easier to talk about. Like when you're only a year, 2 years, 3 years out of it, you don't know if you're going to slip back up into it. And maybe you haven't made as much traction as you would have liked, but it's been a long time. I've accomplished a lot. I feel very proud of myself. And so I don't have a problem saying, this is what started it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
So you got this dog that kind of started you on your path. So when did you first start grooming then? Did you start as a bather or you just started grooming that dog, or how do we
So funny.
end up here?
So I've always been Blake Hernandez, even before I was Blake Hernandez. And so like I was dating this guy, and he knew how much I love my dog. So he invited another couple over in order to host like a dinner, and one of the guys was like, "My sister just opened a grooming salon." And I said, it just like, clicked. I was like, "Oh my God, that sounds awesome. I'd love to work at a grooming salon." "Oh yeah, go ahead. Apply. Tell her you're my friend." So I called, and she was like, "Do you have any experience?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Then no. Duh." And so this is back in like Yellow Pages days. So I
Yeah.
opened up the Yellow Pages in San Francisco and I looked at every grooming salon and I called every single grooming salon and I said, hey, like a job, are you hiring? Every single one of them told me no because I had no experience. But I think one or two were like, oh, come on, we need a bather. You can apply, we'll talk to you or whatever. And I just knew then, I feel like I knew even then that I was not destined to be a bather. It's just not like my thing. So I was like, I think I'd rather go to grooming school. And because I had had my dog for a year and I'd been watching you put Animal Planet on when you leave the house because you have a dog or whatever. And so I would see those commercials for Animal Behavior College, which offers online grooming school and then a placement into a mentorship or like an apprenticeship with a mentor. So that's what I did. I did Animal Behavior College. When I couldn't get a job, I went to Animal Behavior College, but I was like very committed to it. So like while I was waiting for my program to open up to me, I applied to start walking dogs. I started putting flyers around my neighborhood to like practice on neighborhood dogs. And I got in with a shelter to start practicing on their dogs. And once I got the job dog walking, I offered all my the clients like in my pack discounted grooming so that I could practice. So I was doing all of that during the 100 hours that I had to complete with my mentor. And when I was done with my mentor, I got a job and I've been grooming since. But I was just lucky because the first salon that I went to supported continued education. So they paid for my first seminar, well, many seminars. And that first seminar introduced me to Ann Martin, who was a evaluator for the National Dog Groomers Association of America. And basically in that one meeting had convinced me that that was my next step. You need to work on getting your master's. So that's what I did. And now I'm an evaluator for the National Certification Program.
Full circle. Full circle.
I know. Yeah.
It's that old adage when you're trying to get a job of you don't have enough experience, but how do you get experience if no one will hire you? It's so annoying. Anyway. So when did the leap into competitive grooming? When did you get the itch to do that?
So I am a competitor at heart. I've always been a competitor. So I think that I didn't know that grooming competitions existed. And I went to my first trade show, 6 months into grooming, and I saw them competing. And it wasn't a question. That's why I can firmly remember and retell people that it wasn't like, oh, I hope to do that one day, or, I wonder if I should, or I wonder if I can. I just was like, oh, that's the next thing I'm doing. I'm going to compete in grooming competition. And so I did, but that was like I lived on the West Coast and it was the show that I had gone to was Super Zoo. So I had to wait like another maybe 9 months until Pasadena. So by the time Pasadena had come around, I was ready to compete there. I had I think like a mixed breed dog and a purebred dog and a poodle or something. Oh no. That was my second time at Pasadena. My first time at Pasadena, all I did was rescue. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I remember my judge she was very nice to me, but I didn't place and I didn't get amazing critiques. And I think remembering getting the bug was this, right? Like I had competed and I think the bug that I had gotten was simply like feeling like I wanted to compete underneath this judge again. And I wanted to prove to her that I was better than what I had shown her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what was really motivating to me then was just like, I need to compete under that lady again. And I need to show her that I'm better than what she saw. And I actually went on to work for that lady for a while.
Wow.
Yeah.
So many full circle moments with you. I mean, and you saying that you were a competitive gymnast for a while, I'm thinking back to some of your videos where you're doing flips and stuff. It all makes sense now. Like I just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was like everything, right? It was like anything that I could do. I just like when groomers, they'll be really talented or really inspired or just like really itching to do more. And they ask me about grooming competitions. And I'm not here to squash someone's dreams to do them. But like my first thing that I tell them is, are you competitive by nature? Because it's just like a groomer who's really good at grooming who opens a business and then it fails because they're not a good business person. You could be a really good groomer, but if you're not a good competitor, it's probably not the environment for you. just because you have to be able to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, get yourself ready, get the dogs ready, bathe the dogs, power goes out, water starts leaking, you forgot your towels. Oh my God, my blade stopped working. There's so many things that make it uncomfortable, and you have to have that competitive edge in order to do it with a smile on your face, like you're hot shit. So it's not for everyone. And if you are going to do it, starting with something like rescue is really what I would advise.
We'll get to Pooch Perfect in a little bit, and that was mostly creative stuff. When did you then decide to do some creative?
Not a lot of people know this unless they've heard me on a podcast talking about it. But my very first trophy is from creative. So
Okay.
I did a full garden design on a standard poodle. I don't even. I think it was just called like something garden, and I wore uh, like the male version of the Daisy Duke character. Like I had like a red and white like flannel that was like unbuttoned a lot and like little hoochie shorts. And I had my dog in this garden theme, and I got third place. So that was my first a creative contest. Now, when you look at like that, and some of what you saw on Food Perfect, those extreme creatives, like I can more than respect and look at the details and evaluate and judge. Sometimes it's little things when you're judging those classes, like you do a big Hawaiian design, but you didn't use flowers that were indigenous to Hawaii, which makes it weird. So there are like ways that you judge creative, and it's fine, but I like creative that looks good all the time. So that really I like to do dogs into other animal patterns or into characters from like cartoons and like full body or color shampoo stuff. That's the stuff that I enjoy to do, like even to this day. But the Pooch Perfect thing, like that was not like that was probably my least favorite experience in terms of doing creative, simply because that's not what we auditioned for. Like we auditioned for like 11 months, just showing like our portfolio, and my portfolio was nothing but purebred dogs. Like I was chosen for the fact that was the grooming that got me on the show, and it wasn't until like a month, 6 weeks before we go that they tell us, oh, here's a list of the challenges that you may or may not experience. And they were all creative. And because it was during COVID, they also told us, I think maybe even in the same email, if you show up to set with COVID, you will be immediately eliminated before filming starts. So it wasn't like I could jump on a plane and go see Angela Coopy or Lori Craig and do a private week of like creative workshopping just so that I could like fine tune a skill that I didn't do a whole lot of. So it was just like a really unfortunate situation. I loved doing Pooch Perfect, and I loved how close I got to so many of the cast members. And I would do it all over again. I would do any reality show over again. Like it's not that. It's just, they told us that we were going to be showing the industry what amazing, talented professional groomers we were. And then they put us on a television show where there's a man in a mascot uniform dancing and stuffed animals in the stage. And that is a child show. And it's okay that it's a children's show, but you lied to us.
Yeah.
So that was not fun. I did a Netflix documentary that was much more enjoyable.
Yeah, I was gonna say I got notes about that too. So let's just jump real quick to the reality show stuff. Macy Pisa, I talked to her a couple weeks ago, so it'll be interesting to see if your stories align. You know what I mean? What your experiences. So you said the audition process was a long time. When did you first hear about the show? Did they approach you, or how did that happen?
It must have been, I think, 2019, Pasadena. There was producers there with a cameraman doing random like interviews with people who were interested, but also talking to people and being like, who should we have on the show? So I was like competing and teaching and running a booth. Like I didn't know it was good. So they had come and found me and asked me to do like a quick audition interview there at the stage. And then I had hit like they got me into the final, or like one of the picks that should be auditioned. but then the casting company that they were using in 2019 in Pasadena, when the project finally came to fruition and they were actually casting it, they had changed casting agencies. And so when they had changed them, the first casting agency did pass the list off to the second casting agency to say, this is kind of like who you should be pursuing. So I had gotten an email then from the secondary people being like, hey, like, we were told to come to you. So it was another, we were told to come to you, will you audition? And so I did. I really wanted to bring on a friend or something like that, but they were really into the idea of me bringing my cousin. So I had to bring my cousin as my partner, and he was bathing for me. He'd been bathing and grooming for a while, but yeah, I knew that he wasn't going to really enjoy doing the show. But that was like at the same time that they were casting HBO Hot Dog. And so HBO Hot Dog called me, and they were both trying to get me on the show. And I wanted to be on Pooch Perfect more because it was going to be a season rather than a one-off episode. So I told ABC, hey, like HBO's ready to sign me for this thing. And me and a select few people, I think Macy's one of them, like me, Macy, and then Randy, and Randy wasn't even used, but there was a few people that got early contracts that did not say that you were going to be on the show for sure, but they said you weren't going to audition for another show, and they paid us to do that. So I think they paid me like $500 or something like that just to sign that contract to keep auditioning, basically. Whew, exhausting. Yeah.
Right. So the hot dog thing, were they going to have you on as a guest judge, or why was it just one episode?
Because that's how all of their episodes were.
Oh, okay.
It was 3 groomers, they would compete, and then the next episode was the different 3 groomers. Yeah.
I tried to go back and watch that before I talked to Jess Rona, but it's not available anywhere. Like, it's not on, I couldn't find it. Yeah. Macy told a funny story about because it was COVID, and once you kind of found out you were on the show, you weren't supposed to say anything. So she said, I forget which one messaged first, but one of you just said, are you having a really good day today?
So, of course that's me. That is me texting her, being like, hey, so I think the funniest thing, which you can't really get from a story, but it was just like how silly we probably looked, but like our hotel rooms had these windows that were not bay windows, but they allowed you to stand slightly outward so you could look kind of down the side of the building, of the wall of the building that you were on, and you would see the next window, right? And Macy and I were right next to each other. So we were like, during the daytime, I could see her because the way the light would go in, and at nighttime she could see me because the lights in my room would because the windows weren't normal windows. But we'd be like, when they're like trying to see each other and wave to each other because we knew we were both there. But yeah, we had like strict contracts to not tell anyone that we were there and not discuss anything with anyone. And you guys all know Riza Wisdom and Milena Khan, and they were both there, but only Riza made the show. And we will never know for sure, but the thought is that Milena got released because they found out that she was selling products to other competitors. So Riza was buying an airbrush machine off of Milena, and that was like a clue to the producers that they had been talking when they weren't supposed to. So we don't know for sure, but that's like everyone's theory, and that's how Gabriel made the show. So Gabriel was actually an alternate.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
so much
Gabriel
insight.
was a known alternate. Like, he came into that situation knowing that he was an alternate, and then Milena was supposed to be like a for sure thing, and that all changed.
Wow. And I must say, I went back and watched the first couple episodes because it was a few years ago, and I thought your elephant was
worth watching because I'm on them.
But I thought your elephant was great. I don't know why they didn't like it.
So that story also involves Macy and Randy. Randy Starr in LA was the groomer that was maintaining a lot of the dogs that were used for the show. And they're paying her for that, but they, she was trying to do her regular clients and then squeeze in these bath dogs. And so the standard poodle comes in and it's completely pelted. There's no way that you guys are going to be able to use this dog. They're like, no, we need this dog. Like 100%, we cannot take this dog off the list. We don't have a replacement. You have to brush it out. She's like, well, you guys have the 45 minutes that I have on this dog and I'll brush it for that long, but that's it. So she brushes out the dog for 45 minutes and sends it home at it. And that dog is the dog that shows up for me to use. And it is completely pelted. And it's, I think, a 4-hour challenge. Maybe it's a 5-hour challenge. I don't remember. But I basically had to demat the dog for the first 3/4 or 4/5 of the time. And I did that entire groom in an hour. And I was still scissoring over mats because it was not dematted all the way. And Macy left her dog to come over and help me brush out my dog. So it was like me, Bobby, and Macy all working on the dog together to get it brushed out. And they never showed that, which I thought they would.
It shows nice teamwork and camaraderie and all that stuff.
Yeah. And another thing, I don't know if Macy told you this, but when I got eliminated, I hugged, I think, like everyone except for the one person I didn't like on that show, and we still don't like each other. But I intentionally hugged Macy last, and I said, "Now go kick their ass." Like I was so ready for Macy to win. Macy and I we've been a part of that same generation growing up. We've been very close at times. We've been, so busy that we can't be close at other times. But I always have love for Macy, and I was like, if I couldn't do it, I wanted her to do it, and I was like so happy that she won.
Do you think, like you said, you were promised one thing about the show and it turned into something a little more juvenile? Do you think that's partially because Lisa Vanderpump is one of the judges, and what does she really know besides it's a cute dog? Do you think maybe that was part of it?
This is my thing about Lisa Vanderpump. She is a walking prescription bottle. She is so drugged up on Quaaludes. It's like crazy. Like it was uncomfortable working with Lisa. It was inspiring working with Rebel. It was one of those things where she's like such a silly person that you forget that you don't get to the top of your game without being very hardworking and very intelligent and very talented. And she was all of those things, and they were on full display in front of all of us. And I was very impressed with her and the vet, Callie Harris. We loved her. She had great vibe. She was great. But Lisa Vanderpump was literally like one day just like laying on the ground, rolling around with some dog. And she was weird, guys. Like I if I have a grudge with a celebrity, it's Lisa Vanderpump.
And I know she is a dog person, like she has a rescue or something, right? But I do just think she was a weird choice for judge.
She had a grooming salon. Like I know, like I used to hang out with this dude that worked for her.
Right. But she's never groomed a dog. Like what? I don't know.
No. I was about to go on Pooch Perfect. I was getting some tattoo done, and I like knew I was going to be on the show, and I was talking to the tattoo artist about it and asking him. And then I asked him if he would ever go on a tattoo contest show, and he was like, "No, like those people don't know what the fuck they're talking about," which I thought was really funny. He was like a very booked guy. He did beautiful work, and he just did not need the validation, which, maybe that's my downfall. I wanted to go and validate myself, but it was interesting. It was interesting, but it was also just like first season stuff.
Yeah.
A bunch of dog people that have no idea what the expectations of a camera crew is, and then a camera crew who has no idea what the expectations are of handling these animals and these grooms. And these were creative grooms that had adornments on them. And when we were done with the contest, you would have to give the dog to a dog handler who was not a groomer, not a creative groomer. And then we would have to go do interviews, and they would have to go through everyone's interviews before we would go back and get our dog back. And then they would give us like 5 minutes to put them back together, because for the last 2 hours, they've been letting them sit and roll and shake their head. And it was not fun. But as I know that as time went along, they figured it out. They stopped getting us mad at dogs. They stopped letting this person hold dogs. Like it was just a learning experience. And I have no beef about that. What I have beef about, and a lot of people do, cameramen, stage crew people, like everyone, is that they gave us zero swag. There was
Mm.
no Pooch Perfect shirt. We didn't get to keep our apron. We didn't like nothing. They didn't give us anything that like showed that we were on the show.
Oh, wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
And one of my questions was any tea on Rebel or Lisa, and you did, so we got it.
I feel like at first I was afraid, like, oh my God, there's probably something in the contract and they can sue me, but like they're not gonna see this. And even if they did see this, they are not gonna care that much. Fine.
You brought up the Netflix documentary Dogs. So how did that come about then? Was that before?
It was, it was way before Pooch Perfect.
Okay.
So that was interesting. So if you watch that episode, you see a lot of focus on Kenichi in the opening, Kenichi Nagase. And that is because it was like 2 months before Pasadena that year. The whole crew had flown out. If you go watch that dogs documentary, they're in different countries like every time. And it's oftentimes like focused around a person who has a job with dogs or a relationship with a dog or whatever, right? So that's what they like. That whole episode was supposed to be about Kenichi. So they fly out to go meet Kenichi and they film him and everything. And they're not dog groomers, so all they know is that they hear this guy's really amazing, really creative, and that they're going to be floored. And they go out and they interview him and whatever. And as they are doing it, they go, "Oh no, this guy is way too boring to do a whole episode on." So they called Barkley because they knew they were going to film him at Pasadena, like during the contest. So they called Barkley and they said, "Hey, like we're coming to the show, we're filming Kenichi. Is there anyone who's competing against Kenichi who is more entertaining?" And so the owner of Barkley said, "I have the guy for you," and sent them to me. And it was a very awesome thing because they like emailed me. I called them. They were like, "Do you want to do it?" I was like, "Yes." And they were like, "Okay, we'll see you on this day." And it was like that was it. That was there wasn't this huge audition process. It wasn't like, I mean, of course I signed contracts and the owner of the salon that I was working at had to sign some things or whatever, but it was very quick. It was very easy to show up on the day that they said, open up a Penske moving truck and a bunch of camera equipment comes out. I mean, it was very cool because I just got to be myself. I just got to do what I normally do and they just asked me about it along the way. I really liked that experience. So yeah, that's how I ended up on that. I guess the thing is that they had this idea in their head that Kenichi was like the end all be all because that's who they were told that the episode was going to be about. And then I was just going to be like this cursory secondary storyline. And when they interviewed me, you don't ever hear them ask this question, but it's basically they basically worded something along the lines of, Kenichi's going to be there. Do you think you even stand a chance? Something like that. And I remember being very like political and amicable. I was like, we're all open level competitors. We're all super talented. So, it's going to be hard for them to decide who, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then I obviously go to place and Kenichi does not. And when we go to do the interview afterward and they're like setting up, and I remember I just like to the interviewer, I was like, "So I guess I stood a chance." Like that was so weird.
Yeah. Well, and that episode was supposed to be kind of about how Japanese grooming and dog culture is different than America, kind of. It was kind of the vibe they ended up going with. And on that episode, you talk about how you got a weird dog.
Yeah.
So obviously we saw that experience, but do you get weird dogs a lot? It sounds like it. You got a pelted dog on Pooch Perfect.
I mean, I guess what I tell people is that I only remember the bad ones. I mean, I do 115 or more teaching assignments every single year. So that's like minimum 4 dogs on my table during that's 460 dogs in a year that I meet only for the one time. And so if they're good and easy, I don't remember that. I remember the terrible ones. So I think because I can remember them, on the scale, it's probably not a ton, but I definitely have stories. There is a dog named Gummy Bear that basically ruined my life. So.
What did Gummy Bear do? You can't just leave it like that.
He was like a 1+-year-old Shih Tzu that had never been groomed. And I didn't know that going into the demo. And I was struggling with this dog because he was so not used to any of it. And as I'm almost finished, the owner who's in the class, and this is his first haircut. And I'm like, you couldn't tell me that? Okay, cool.
This episode of Groomer Tales is brought to you by Pet Dental Health Month. Head over to groomerschoice.com for all your dental must-haves from Tropiclean and Sure Grip. Everything from water additives, gels, and toothbrushes. You can also catch Groomer's Choice at Groom Expo West and Groom. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok so you don't miss out on upcoming shows, exclusive deals, and a few fun surprises. Now, back to Groomer Tales. And we see behind you the Foxy Roxy's Shears supply company. How did that get started? What's the origin story of that?
Okay. And so I have a story. I do have all these stories.
Right.
So I went to Super Zoo as an open level competitor. It was my second time competing in open, and I placed in 2 different classes, getting groom team points in 2 classes, which is not super normal. It's very common for people to move up to open level and like taking some time to start getting placements. But I did really well. And so this lady had reached out to me and said, "Hey, my boss owns a mobile grooming business with a few groomers. Would you come and do a seminar for us?" And I was already doing seminars, obviously not on the scale that I do now, but that was another little notch. They were asking me because they had seen me place and do so well at Super Zoo. That's what inspired them to ask. And so we booked it, and it was planned. And the lady's like on my friends list or on my, and I start seeing that she is the owner of Foxy Roxy Supply Company, Scissor of the Month Club, that had just launched, I think, 1 month ago at the time. And so there was a girl in my salon that was subscribed. And so I saw the scissor come in. The second month, I see the scissor come in. And a different company asked me to do a box opening for them. So I said yes. And they send me the product, and I do a box opening from them. And I'm very let down. I pretend like I'm not, but I'm very let down. And then I go, this is terrible, but what about Scissor of the Month Club? Like, they already like me enough to teach over there. Maybe they'll do this. What I just did with this lady, maybe they'll do for Scissor of the Month Club. So I went to her and I said, "Hey, what do you think about me doing this?" And it was all just like timing and synergy, because at that same time is when Facebook launched the live feature. So like my first bit of social media fame in the grooming industry came from me doing live grooming demos, like from my kitchen. I would groom poodles and Bichons, and I would do it live, so people were there engaging with me and seeing me do it in real time. And teachers that I had looked up to started messaging me and saying, you're actually very good at teaching. You have a really good way of doing, what you're doing, and keep going or whatever. And it just was like, man, maybe I should focus on this. So I never had like initial aspirations to be a seminar speaker or educator, but I am now. I've had the Barkley Honors Educational Video of the Year twice, up and coming Speaker of the Year. And like I said, I mean, I am booked until November of 2026 for teaching.
Dang. Booked and blessed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Forgive me if because I don't know this for sure. Do you own your own salon then, or no?
No. So for a long time, I had my own salon, but even then, I didn't own it. Foxy Roxy did. So that was like a really cool thing about the ambassadorship, is that they bought me a salon. They lived 8 hours away, and they bought me a salon because I couldn't do content in other people's salons. I couldn't turn around and say, every groomer turn off the dryers for the next 45 minutes. I have to do a live demo. So we realized very quickly that I couldn't do content in other people's stuff. So she bought me a salon, and she lived 8 hours away. So I ran that salon as my own for 4 years. But I have owned businesses, like brick and mortar businesses. I owned a build your own, like pour your own candle business for 3 years. And that was a brick and mortar and stuff. So I've owned businesses, but I've actually never owned a grooming salon. Sorry.
Gotcha. We've mentioned a lot of things you're involved in. Blake Hernandez itself is a brand. You've built a brand around, being a groomer, social media, reality TV, all these things. So how did you learn to navigate the business side of things?
Jill Haley, the owner of Foxy Roxy Supply Company, has really helped me. I would say that like the speaking side of it has been a learning experience, really. I have learned how to time the announcement of events through flop and flourish. I've had times where I I announced something X amount of weeks out and it was terrible, and I do it Z amount of days out and it's amazing. And figuring out pricing and figuring out my rates and all of those things just kind of came with trial and error. But learning how to run a business, like when I owned that candle business, I really just Jill Haley was basically like my business advisor or sounding board for all of that.
Going back to when you compete, I know you a lot of times, even on the dogs documentary or on Pooch Perfect, a lot of times you try to kind of match your outfit with your dog, or like you just show up to the shows, looking good. So like, is there like a whole calendar where you plan your outfits, or well, how does the thought process go into the outfits?
So I guess it's a little, we'll give you a story. I I was competing and people just showed up in smocks and whatever. And then I started showing dogs, and I would notice that for some reason people see dog shows as this very elite, very like wealthy thing to do. And they look at groomers like this working class hobbyist or weird thing or whatever. I don't know. And I was like, maybe part of that is just because you guys show up with your hair not done in scrubby, ripped pocket smocks, and at dog shows they show up in a St. John suit. Like maybe there's something there. And so I decided on my own accord that I was going to show up to grooming shows dressed in dog show attire. So I show up to Pasadena. This is the year that they were filming me for Netflix. And I showed up to Pasadena in a three-piece suit, and this isn't even the day that they were filming me. And as I walk in, a group of girls start making fun of me in the ring, like competitors, like ha ha ha, whatever they were saying. And I didn't say anything to them. I just remember thinking to myself, "Oh, if you think this is like embarrassing or cringy or whatever they were trying to make me feel, these were open level girls too, and they whatever they were trying to do, I was like not going to let them win. See, I lived in a conservative town and I wore my cheer uniform to school every football day, so I was like not embarrassed at all. I was like, well, I'll show you embarrassing. And so I went to the Florida show and I bought a suit that was short shorts and short sleeves, and it was bright blue with yellow pineapples all over it. And when I showed up to that show, I had a countless amount of people come up and ask to take a picture with me because they love the suit. And I have gone to teach in salons in the last year where there are pictures of me from that day where they were at that show, they took a picture with me and they put it up in their salon. That was such an iconic suit and an iconic day. And it went so well that I realized that I had to go buy a bunch of crazy suits. So I had 30 of those suits before I left. And there was a little bit of coordination in like Atlanta is like moist and swampy. So I always wore like jungly like patterns, like jungle or cheetah or whatever in Atlanta. And then all American, I would always wear like American flag stuff and things like that. But other than that, I think I was just going for variety.
As someone that follows your social media, I always look forward to what the outfit is going to be, or like the hair flips and stuff.
Thank you.
What advice would you give to groomers who want to expand beyond the grooming table and maybe get into teaching or entrepreneurship? Do you have any good advice for doing more?
I have lots of little tips that I think are good to keep in mind. If you are running a business and you want to make your business grow, that doesn't always mean hiring another groomer or opening another salon. I really believe in really curating a good client list. So your client list is full, you start taking a wait list. You take your wait list until it is 1/3 your regular maintenance list. So if you could do 60 dogs on regular schedules in rotation, and then when your wait list hits 20 dogs deep, you raise your prices based on the cost of living percentage increase since the last time you raised your prices. So it's not emotional. You just raise them, and then you will lose some clients and you pull off of your wait list. You will earn more money without having to hire more people or put more risk out. And you can do that. You can raise your prices 4 times a year if you hit that number 4 times a year. And if you don't hit it for 18 months, 3 years, then that just tells you that your business isn't growing at a rate that you maybe in your head thought it was. So I think people sometimes get that mistake. If you want to work for a brand, I really recommend posting every single day, just period, point blank. You have to post every single day, but also every single day you work, you should be posting things into your stories, tagging the company that you wish to work for, because everyone needs to create content today in this day and age. And when a company is tagged in content that they could turn around, share, and use as their content for the day, oh, such a relief, number one. Number two, when it's time for that company to start looking for ambassadors, we are going to go quickly to the handles of people that we recognize because we see them frequently. We know
Mm-hmm.
that they use the product. So you can't just wish and hope and buy from them. You have to show them that you can be, because like if you're tagging them in stories every day, then they aren't going to think, oh, well, what if we hire this person and then they like never post? You have to like make it make sense. And if you want to get bigger on social media, you just have to post every day. But some people are afraid of doing like this, like standing in front of a camera and talking to a camera, and that's okay. As groomers, I think that there is a lot of good to be done with voiceover work if you have an iconic background. So if your backdrop is really eye-catching and very unique, then you don't ever have to be in the content, but your voice needs to, because people do connect to a person's voice. So they'll
Mm-hmm.
see this backdrop and they'll hear my voice and they'll connect to it as, okay, I feel a connection to this person because there's history there. I have 3 lights back here and my window open. You have to have good lighting and you have to read your analytics. Like I'm very well known for doing retro poodle trims, and I do. I love doing them, but I would say the first year of doing them was simply because my analytics told me to. I was
Mm-hmm.
just seeing that those posts would take off more than any other post. So I had to keep turning out different retro trims to keep my algorithm building every time it would see that stuff. So you have to read your analytics and oblige them. And if you want to educate and you don't know how to book a seminar, you tried and no one signed up or whatever, there's a really good way, which is Groomer to Groomer magazine is always looking for new articlists. They, I write an article in there every month. I love doing it, but I've also been doing it for like 5, 6 years. And they don't mind skipping a month and not having me in it and putting someone else in it for that month. Like it's not a big deal. Not to me, not to them. It gives variety to the readers. And so if you feel like there's a topic that makes you unique, that you could write a good article on, then start there. Message Groomer to Groomer magazine and say, hey, this is my experience. This is my resume. This is something that I'm very talented at, that I specialize in, that I have a lot of expertise in. And this is the subject that I would want to talk about. This is the title of my article. What do you think? And I'm going to say 9 times out of 10 that they're going to say yes. And if that article does well, then that may lead them to go, hey, what if this person wants to teach this topic to a seminar at a trade show? And then
Mm-hmm.
they'll try you out at a trade show. And then people fill out those cards. And if you get a bunch of 5 stars, then they're going to go, oh, let's see if they want to teach another class. That's kind of how it goes.
Speaking of social media, how do you think social media has changed what clients expect from groomers? Do you think it's good or bad, or because there's a lot more out there now about pet grooming.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's bad. I think that people are more educated about it and that they maybe have a wider variety of what they may want to do other than a puppy cut or a teddy bear trim or whatever. So I think that there's benefit in that regard. But I also think that the social media, what's been interesting for me is clients finding me on social media now because I've always created content for groomers, not for pet owners. And so now sometimes I see clients popping up in my lives and things, which is, I don't know. I don't mind, but I could see it like throwing people off if they weren't super comfortable in this capacity yet. But one of the reasons why I decided to go back to working in a pet salon was because I teach a lot, but I felt a little disconnected from the pet grooming community because I hadn't been in a pet salon as an employee or working on commercial dogs daily in over 5 years. And so I was like, I really would need to go back and reconnect. And the biggest reason why, or at least like the easiest thing that I could tell people was that I was teaching seminars and I was having people tell me that their clients were coming in and asking for a groom, and that groom was an AI picture. And it what it that isn't the jarring thing. The jarring thing was that groomers were experiencing something that I wasn't familiar with because I wasn't working for clients anymore. So I was like, I felt like I needed to reconnect with the people that I entertain all the time. And I think
Yeah.
it has absolutely done that. Like my content is so much more like daily groomer thoughts and stuff because I'm
Yeah.
back with my coworkers and I'm working on pet dogs. And no, I don't do it a lot. I do it like once or twice a week when I'm in town, but it has reconnected me with the teddy bear trim, the half inch all over 7 times a day, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. You gotta to know your target audience. You gotta
Yeah, I just
be
felt
with them.
disconnected.
Yeah. So obviously you're very active on social media. So how do you balance your social media with everything else you do? Do you do like batch content or do you just harass your coworkers or like how do you do that?
Today I harassed my coworkers. I'm gonna post it tomorrow. There's the Valve knee walks that he did on Dancing with the Stars. And so like me and 6 employees all tried it today. So yeah, sometimes it's like that. What I try to do is I do batch days. I absolutely do batch days. I couldn't survive without them. And when I do a batch day, I try to get myself to somewhere between 10 to 12 videos done. And they're quick videos. They're not, some of them are longer, but I'm not usually grooming on a day that I'm doing batch work. I'm usually just filming. So I try to get 10 to 12 videos done on those days. But I also try to create at least one video every day if I can that is not from my batch. Because my goal is to post 2 times a day. And if I pull one from my batch, then that means I only have to create one video a day. And and then every once in a while I'm traveling and I don't look good and I don't have an idea and I don't feel like putting on my mic or whatever, and I can drop two for my batch. So yeah, I do batch days, but I also try to create content every day so that because if I do a batch day and I make 12 videos and I drop two of them a day every day, they're gone in 6 days. And so
Mhm.
I like for me to do a batch day and for it to last me like 2 weeks. Like the goal is for a batch day to last me 2 weeks.
And is it just you? Do you have any help with your social media?
Oh yeah, it's just me.
I was just curious because you do
Yeah.
a lot. So I was curious if you had any help, but no
I've gotten
editors or
better.
anything.
I've gotten better. Like when you, that's the thing. That's why you gotta post all the time because like editing is a hard, lengthy part of it. But when you are editing your stuff all the time, you realize what is taking long in the edit, and then you get better about not even recording that stuff in the first place. Then you're
Yeah.
not editing it out. It gets cleaner in my edit anyway. Also, I just have learned like I edit when I'm in airports. I edit when I'm watching TV. Because what are you doing when you're watching TV? You know what I mean? I can edit at the same time. And so I do a lot of that. My boyfriend, he's a French chef and he cooks dinner every single night. So he's like, gone in the kitchen for like 2 hours and I will just edit like the whole time I'm doing that.
That sounds amazing, by the way. I want someone to cook for me every day.
It is nice. It's been a learning experience, right? So we've had some flop nights too. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, last night we had rabbit. You know what I mean? We
Oh,
had lamb for Thanksgiving. Like we eat pretty good because he loves it. Yeah.
you mentioned a little bit, how you don't let the haters get you down in general, but obviously there's online trolls. How do you deal with online trolls? Do you just, my favorite saying is I roll and scroll. That's my favorite.
So I think that listen, you could get into the nitty gritty of it every time. Like you can break it down play by play if you wanted to, but it always goes back to the same thing, which is jealousy. They are always jealous. And it's not like when people hear the word jealous, they think, I don't want to be like you. I'm not jealous. It's not always that. Maybe you're jealous of how free I feel to be myself at this volume. You know what I mean? Maybe you just hate that you can't do that. Maybe it has nothing to do with me being cringe online or teaching in Africa. It's that you just see me so happy and you're not, and it makes you jealous. It's just and I also look at my life and I think if I wasn't having my life, I would be jealous too. I just I it's always jealousy is what it boils down to. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I will always if my friends in this world were going through it, that's what I would tell them. I have to give the grace and tell myself that because it is true. They are jealous. They just want the things that you are getting. However, I am human, and every once in a while there becomes an onslaught where there's a thread that will just like absolutely tear me to pieces. And 9 times out of 10, they're talking about a Blake that existed 8 years ago. They are not talking about Blake Hernandez in front of you right now. But when they do that, it's 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 just the compound number that makes it harder to deal with. Where I get a little bit more like emotional, like quiet. But I'm not a crier. I'm pretty tough. I don't let it bother me too much. Again, I was a male cheerleader in high school, so I had bullies that were really
Yeah.
mean. So yeah, I try to just move on with my life. I One thing I don't do is I never address it. Like
True.
there's never like a thread going on about me and then I go and comment in it. There's never a
Yeah,
thread
I
going
don't.
on about me and I go into my page and I go, this is what's going around. And I'm going to just explain myself because I have learned one thing in social media for sure. And when you defend something, you make it look like it needs defending. And I do
Mhm.
not need to defend anything I do. I am a good person. I'm a good groomer. I am a good hard worker. And anyone that has ever met me would never say anything different. So you're just like putting your shit on me, and I do not care.
Some of the other guests we've had have mentioned meeting you at shows or you helping connect them with other people. Like it's all been good. You started making a face, but other people have mentioned you and it's all been good. Like you were saying, if you've actually met him, you probably think he's a good
Yeah.
guy. And then on one of your posts lately, it was something about posting this till one of my high school bullies apologizes, or what was that? Like, did they actually apologize?
So I would no. There actually isn't anything deep to that. There really isn't. It was more me thinking it may or may not like trigger more engagement. It wasn't
Right, right.
anything. Yeah. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I honestly, I have too many high school bullies. Like any of. I did think it was funny because some people from high school did comment, but none of them were like, "I was your bully and I apologize." It
Yeah.
was like, "Who are you talking about?" And I wasn't talking. I wasn't talking about anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. This is my favorite question to ask everybody. What's your best poop story?
Poop story.
Poop story.
Okay, geez, odd. Poop story. Trying to think. I mean, I think that there's okay. I have a Australian, or I used to compete with an Australian Terrier that would get very overstimulated. And thank God it was an Australian Terrier, but I bathed her, prepped her, and then like I put her in her kennel, and I was going to compete with her. So I was just like watching her furnishings, and I put her in the kennel, and I told my assistant to take her out while I went to bathe the other one, and he didn't do it in time, and she had shit and got. So I had to go and re-prep my dog on a contest day. I don't know that I don't have like a funny. I want to say like, oh, when you stick your hand in and or something like that, because I feel like a lot of groomers have that story, but that's never happened to me. Also, the whole like anal glanding onto yourself. I don't know how you did that, but it's never happened to me. Number one. Number two, if it ever did, I would not have enough time to grab my phone and take a selfie of the shit spray on me. So anytime I see a groomer post where like, oh, I got that's weird. That is the second it touched your skin, how are you not
Yeah.
spraying yourself with water? Because what? So yeah, it's not a good food story.
This is a part of the podcast called Quick Snips. It's a series of rapid fire questions. They're all just kind of for fun. Are you ready?
Okay. Wait. Okay. Yes.
Okay, your favorite animal from a TV show or movie?
The guy from Neverending Story.
Okay. Your go-to coffee order?
Ice white mocha, extra shot, no whipped cream.
Most used emoji?
I don't use emoji.
Okay.
A
What
heart?
was a
Yeah.
heart? Okay. What was the last thing you binge watched?
Love and Death.
What is that on? What is that?
It is an HBO original that just moved over to Netflix, and it's really good.
Okay, good to know. One product or tool you can't live without?
A Measuremate.
A what?
A Measuremate. It's a comb that is a very high quality comb, but it also has inches on one side and centimeters on the other, so that you're no
Oh,
longer just guessing that things are equal and even, but you have numbers to prove it.
nice. Okay, because this is a Groomer's Choice podcast, would you happen to have a favorite Groomer's Choice product?
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
That's totally fine.
Sorry.
But also I want to thank you at Hershey. You did in a couple of your videos had Groomer's Choice in the background, and we appreciated that.
I did. Yeah. You know what? I will remark on that. I do use products from other companies. I am not like crazy picky necessarily, but I do obviously try to just keep my brand in my hand. But I have a very big thing, like, because I teach, like, I have to talk about clippers and we don't sell clippers. I have to talk about palm mats or like mats and we don't sell mats, so I have to talk about other companies. And I have a very strict rule that I do not promote any company in any form or fashion if they do not support the grooming industry. So if you are not in there sponsoring contests, throwing seminars, hosting groomer events, if you're not doing that and you're just preying on a woman driven field of mom and pop shops and taking our money and that's all, I'm not going to promote you. So everyone that you saw me putting in the background of my videos that were not my brands were simply because I wanted to support the brands that support groomers.
Love that. Yeah. And then this is the last little part of the quick snips, which never ends up being rapid fire. But anyway, what do you still wish to accomplish?
Whew. That is a good question. I have accomplished a lot. I think that, I think a secondary passion that I have gotten through all of this is that I love traveling so much now. So my passions have become combined. Like, how many places can I go and teach and meet groomers? And so I have been to 5 of the 7 continents. I've been to like 20 countries. So I'm just like trying to keep adding to that. I want to
Getting
keep
the
seeing more of
stamps
the
and the
world.
passport, right? Getting those
Yes,
stamps.
yes, yeah.
I started doing this thing where I have a past guest ask the next guest a question. And
Ooh.
so Macy wanted to ask you something about your favorite grooming shoes. She said you would know what she's talking about.
Yeah, I wish I had this. I wish I like it. literally today is like the one day that I didn't wear them because it's snowing here. Okay, I just grabbed one
Okay,
to
that's
show.
okay.
But these are what she's talking about. They are
Yep.
by Vivo Barefoot. And so it's a barefoot shoe, so it feels like more natural, like you're barefoot or whatever. But they're like these holy hexagons. There is a story to this. I thought they looked cool on an Instagram ad one year, and I bought a pair and I loved them so much. And this was like in 2017. And so then I bought another pair, and then I think the white ones I had walked through by like 2019. So I bought another pair that was white, and then the black pair that I walked through and I went to go order them in 2020, and it was like, production had stopped because of COVID. So they weren't making them anymore. And so I had to wait years before we could get them again. And then we got them again. I ordered a bunch. So I have 3 or 4 pairs now. And they are kind of like my thing. I because it's a European brand. So it's
Mm.
not something that you see in American stores really. And and they kind of look like Crocs, but they're nice looking. And so, yeah, it's like a thing that I've done for 8 years now.
All right. And then you said it's snowing where you are. Are you still in California?
No, I moved to Denver,
Okay,
Colorado in
gotcha.
April. Yeah,
Gotcha. Is that where the French chef boyfriend was, or you moved together, or what?
yeah, we've been together for 5 years.
Oh, okay, gotcha. And then the next guest, hopefully, if scheduled, because she had to reschedule a couple of times too. Her name's Dr. Azalea Boyd. She is a vet clinic owner. She's a mentor, a speaker. She's a woman of color. She does educating and all these sorts of things. Do you have a question for her?
Okay. A very interesting one, I think. As a woman of color in a medical field, we've come to learn recently or in more recent years that a lot of medical books and medical diagnoses and training are based around Caucasian skinned, complected people. And so they have to do entire medical books now, towards deeply melanated people, people of color. And because different skin things and different things react differently to them or look differently. But it's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing, bacteria or infection or whatever. Is that something that you see on dogs? Is there something that is prone to a black dog that isn't on a red dog? Or yeah, that's what I want.
Yeah, that is, I wouldn't have related those things together, but it's, yeah, you'd think it could be. And then here at the end, as if someone's not following you yet, but if you want to give out your website, your socials, events coming up where they can find you or sign up for seminars or any of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, if you aren't following me already, I am on all the platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I almost never post on YouTube anymore. And I really only answer messages on Facebook, like without a doubt. 100% I will reply to messages on Facebook. So that is the best place to contact me. But I have a process with my seminars. I announce them 12 weeks in advance. So you really should be following me on Facebook so that you can see what is coming up, because I post not every week, but almost every week of whatever's coming 12 weeks down the road. So that's how you watch out for my events. But you can follow, all the products that I use for the most part are Foxy Roxy Supply Company. And the way that I schedule my life, as crazy it is with PetSket. So yeah.
Yeah, there is a blakehernandez.com, but it is a very old picture on there. Is that even your website, or did someone else make that, or is it a
Yeah, I mean,
catfish?
it is still my website. The thing is that I think we recently stopped selling the merch from it. But there will be a revamp. I mean, we can talk about it here because I was just telling, because Jill Haley manages like my what is that link tree,
Yep.
and also my website. So I was telling her that I was reading my algorithm and I'm getting like 300 clicks on my link tree every month, and 3 of the things on the link tree don't even exist anymore. I'm like, we gotta update that. So
Yeah.
we'll be working on that. But
Mhm.
blakehernandez.com, it's not, but I don't post like seminars there.
Right,
So
right.
yeah.
We're almost done, I promise. I just thought of
Mhm.
this as you were talking. Do you think you'd ever, or maybe it is in the pipeline, I don't know, launch your own coat care or anything like that? Is that in a thing you'd like to do ever?
I mean, I do all of my products with Foxy Roxy Supply Company. So I have a line of blades, I have many sets of scissors, I have brushes, I have combs. I have done, I mean, during COVID, I used to have face masks with my
Oh,
face
okay.
on. So I've done I've done a lot of products. So Elizabeth Gibbs posted something. She's like, I was cleaning out my garage and look at what I found. And it's a blade box, like traveling carrier, and my face is on it because I used to have boxes. And someone in the comments was like, I opened up a suitcase that I hadn't used in a few years, and I found a coaster with his face on it because I used to have coasters that had my face on it. So I've had a lot of products over the years.
Gotcha. I would be remiss because a lot of people around here wanted me to ask, what products do you use on your own hair? And why'd you decide to start growing it out?
So I had long hair basically like most of my 20s. And then I had cut it right as I started doing the social media thing. So I had short hair for the first 4 years I did social media. So a lot of people didn't know that I was already used to having long hair. It's just, I didn't have long hair when I was a child. It was not until I was in my 20s, but I had it for a long time. I grew it out and I would just cut it off and donate it and grow it out and cut it off and donate it. I just kept cutting it off like right at the ponytail so I could just keep growing out the ponytail again. And that's what I did for a long time. My hair is not done right now. I forgot I was doing this week, so I just did a whatever hair care routine. But I use a lot of products for different reasons. You really need to know your hair's like porosity and density and texture in order to choose the right products. But I have a lot of success with Amika product line, Kerastase product line, and K18 product line. And then I use a random few things from a couple of other ones, but I could probably just use Kerastase and be fine, but it's a little expensive. So I like Amika because it's more affordable. And then K18 is just very reparative. So I try to keep that in the rotation too.
Gotcha.
But I had to go film content for the American Kennel Club in New York. And I had been growing out my hair, but I didn't really know how to like style it when it was long. Because in my 20s, it was just always in a ponytail. And I knew I didn't want it in a ponytail for the filming. So I got a blowout. And that was my first blowout. It was in Salt Lake City, Utah. I remember because it changed my life. I've been blowing out my hair since. So
Yeah, it looks good. Do you have a wash schedule? Do you only wash it a couple times a week, or what's the vibe with
just
that?
a couple times a week. But I actually go live every single night now and take care of my hair for my audience. So
Gotcha.
because I do morning maintenance, night maintenance, weekly maintenance, and like monthly maintenance, and it's all different stuff. Last night I was live trimming my split ends for 40 minutes.
Oh, wow. I also did not do my hair, so don't judge this. But anyway, that's all I had prepared. Thanks. We finally got it done. So that's yay.
Yes.
So
Oh,
yeah,
thank
speak
you.
now or forever hold your peace. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, I'm good.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Groomer Tales, a podcast by Groomer's Choice. Please rate, review, subscribe, and comment wherever it is that you listen to your podcasts. If you have any questions or comments about something you heard in this episode, please feel free to email us at groomertalespod@gmail.com. Until next time.